Oh, hello everyone, this is Claudia and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are really going to learn the only flower that you need to know for everything that you do in your bullet journal. And I kind of mean it because there's one flower that if you just vary the petal shape, you can actually make so many variations of this that you are set for the entire year. And what we're going to do is called the hellebore, or the flower of scandal, how people call it. So the only thing you need to know is, and you need to do is have a bigger circle, which should be like your maximum point where you put your petals in, and then you're going to start with the center and go from there. So the way I do a hellebore is I like to make them with lots of petal layers. So I start with the first three petals, and in this first idea, the petal shape is skinnier at one end and pretty flat at the end. This is like what you see in kind of all my flower compositions. I always draw this flower. I like the flat end of the petals, and this is like my preference, but of course you can do totally different. So then I just do petals. The first three ones are going to be in the forefront, and then I just tuck the petals underneath, and then I create as many petals as I want, as many layers as I want. In this particular time I did about 3 layers. The other characteristic of a hellebore, which you need to know, is the stamen. So you have lots of stamen in the middle, and the way I do stamen is I first draw the tiny circles at different lengths from the center, and then I just do the tiny lines of the stamen. Now, the reason why I said you only need to know one flower basically, and then you can vary everything that is inside. One example is the decorations inside the petal, and the decorations inside the petal this time, the first time I do kind of a broken line. The way I do that is I take my 005 and I just barely touch the paper, and this way I kind of interrupt the line. I don't necessarily need to think about it. I don't necessarily need to consciously lift the pen. It's just because it's such a tiny nib that it kind of gets interrupted by itself. Now, the one thing that you can do with this flower is just make it simple. Normally, there are different types of hellebores, and one of the most common types is the one with the 5 petals. So I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm just drawing 5 petals. So I start with the center, and then I draw 5 petals all around, and some of the petals are tucked behind others. It doesn't have to be precise, it doesn't have to be pretty, but it's the same petal shape. It's just you are varying the number of the petals. Then you will see that it looks much better once you start adding the details inside the petal, like this broken line, and it makes it look really nice. So this is like with just 2 variations, you already have 2 different flowers. Now, the other type of hellebore is the one that has a rounded petal, and I like this a lot. This is the first time kind of when I started drawing this type of petal shape more seriously, and I think I'm going to start using it way more because I kind of like the rounded shape nowadays. So the way I do these petals is exactly the same as the other part. I start from the center and I go out and I just round it. And this time I tried the stamen to do differently, so you can see 2 types. You either start with the circles or you start with the lines, right? Don't forget to vary the length of the line of the stamen, otherwise it looks a little bit too flat. Now, for this second one, there's a different decoration that I'm going to do inside, and this is how you can vary your flowers and you can make it look like you have different type of flowers in your bouquet or in your bullet journal but it's just a variation of petal shape and decoration inside. And a very common feature of a hellebore is actually it has the spots. So it could be that the flower is white or very light color and it has really dark spots. And the way I do that is I just pick up a really thick pen, and I believe this one is a 08, and I just start dotting everything. So the dots are more pronounced in the center of the petal and they kind of fade out to the end. So you can see how the two flowers, although kind of are the same, they give you the same impression. It's the same flower, it's a hellebore. Just by varying the petal shape and the inside, you can make a vastly different flower. So this is truly the one flower to rule them all situation. So I kind of did the same thing. I tried to do just 5 petals with a rounded petal shape, and this gives you yet another option, right? You could make this flower so many ways, and you can just fill your bullet journal with this type of flower. So wonderful. Now, to be honest, on this particular video, I am not talking at all about leaves. So what you are going to have the advantage of when you're going to draw this in real is you're gonna add leaves, and then it adds even more interest than just the flower, right? Like now we're just learning. I just wanted to share the one flower that actually this is the first flower that I properly learned how to draw. I used to doodle a lot before, but this is really the one flower that I draw the most often, and it's like the easiest one also to learn. So now you can always sketch it in pencil and make it easier on yourself, but you know, it's not necessarily something that you need to do. You can practice. On this particular one, I actually sketched the flowers in pencil because this is a petal shape I'm not really familiar with, and it wasn't really going that well. But I wanted to show it to you that you can do a petal shape that is more pointy, and it actually looks pretty neat. It's a different type of flower. It has a maybe a different meaning. It inspires a different sentiment in me, but it's also it's kind of the same flower, just different petal shape. So in the end, what you need to learn basically is just 3 petal shapes, and with these 3 petal shapes you can do different flowers even, because sometimes the difference between flowers is not that big. I mean, we might think that the difference between flowers is big, but actually there are not that many different types of petal shapes. What does distinguish a lot of flowers is the middle of the flower, so the stamen and middle where the seeds are, and also the decorations on the leaves. But actually what you need to learn is the petal shape, the rounded petal shape, the pointy petal shape, and kind of the flat petal. And once you learn those ones, then you can basically do, with this type of flower, you can basically do all other types of flowers, right? It's just like the basic of all the other flowers that you need to do. I hope I shed some light on a little bit on my process on how I make these flowers and how I draw them. I have practiced quite a lot, but I think if you just practice a few times, you'll be able to get the hang of it. Just concentrate on one type of petal at a time. Just draw the individual petals out, and then you'll be able to make this flower